through that period of time, the way that we changed the service was that we were originally going into the City of London with the mobile van. But when COVID-19 guidance came out, we decided that we couldn't use the van anymore because it was an enclosed space, which would increase the risk of transmission. So we then changed to on-foot outreach, which is very similar to what most other homeless outreach health work is like in London at the moment. And really, as of last week, our outreach has been very focused, much more around COVID-19. So the City of London outreach team have let us know about particular cases they're concerned about. So these are people they're concerned have symptoms or people who are particularly vulnerable. And then during our outreach, we go out, so with Sam and another outreach worker who most recently has mostly been Denise, who's a community mental health outreach worker, and who is familiar with where people are based, and she also knows a lot of the rough sleepers in the city, and is to go out to find these individuals, to check if they do have symptoms, and then assess how unwell they are. So if they're very unwell, to decide if they need admission to hospital, or if they're not very unwell, to ask them about accommodation. So some people already have beds in day centres or other places. So initially, when those were still open, we were encouraging people to stay in their beds rather than to stay on the street. And that's been very challenging. But now the day centres and shelters have all been shut. And so people have been moved from those into the hotel beds. So now it's a case of if we see people that need to be admitted, it's then referring them into the hotels. Today, the service has changed yet again. So there were concerns last week about safety from some of the St Mungo's outreach workers in other boroughs. So because at night now there aren't people about, it's actually very quiet in London. And so outreach workers were not feeling as safe as they previously had been doing night outreach. So St Mungo's decided not to send any outreach workers at night at all. So what we are doing today is that we're going to trial an afternoon outreach. So we're going to do 4 till 6:30 to do the same thing. So to go out, identify at-risk individuals and to see if we can move them into hotel rooms. The challenge around that is that we usually choose to go out at night because we rely on people bedding down and becoming stationary in order to engage with them. Otherwise, people are very mobile and they're busy and so don't necessarily want to engage with us. It'll be interesting to see now whether that behaviour's changed at all with restriction of movement, which is being enforced by the police. But also, people normally move out of the city to access services in other boroughs, so day centres and shelters. But because they've all closed down, we don't know whether that will mean this population will stay within the city, and therefore in the afternoon we may be able to find them. Our aim, so we'll see how today goes. If it works, then our aim would be to continue to do that as an afternoon shift. If we find that we're walking around and we can't find anyone because it looks like they're still moving around, then our other option is to consider a night shift but with police escort to ensure that we continue to feel safe.